I'm going to tell you right now, I'm lobbying for the $100 gift card that the person that wasn't here. So maybe y'all can pass that my way at the end of the talk. No, seriously, it's an honor to be here tonight to share the evening with you all and with a company with such long and deep history and tradition. I'm learning more and more about the company, and just I want give yourselves a hand for 60 years of success. I mean, I think that's commendable for everybody in the company to be proud of that. To be proud of that, and so I'm honored to be here speaking to you in your 61st year. Look forward to spending the next several minutes with you, talking about some events in my life that Tony kind of touched on. So with that is a picture of a hamburger there. Just out of curiosity, can anybody name that burger? I mean, just any unique characteristics of that? Well, the restaurant. Can anybody name the Wendy's? Okay, good guess. Hardee's, good guess. No sesame seeds on there, so that might be a giveaway. I heard a Hardee's. I heard a Backyard. That's a good guess. How about here? Is that interior decor? Smash burger. So I hear a smash burger. Okay. Steak and shake. Here's steak and shake. That's good. Five Guys. Who thinks Five Guys? Five Guys. Okay, we got two. Who thinks Smash? Oh, we got multiple Smash. The answer is Smash Burger. Y'all got it right. The Smash Burger guys got it right. And you might be asking yourself, why in the heck is he up here talking about Smash Burger right now? And the reason being is because it's responsible for me being here tonight. Interesting story. So I'm with my family. I think it was a Sunday afternoon, and we decide, we argued in the car where we're going to eat. We're going to go to Saul Good. We're going to go to Schlotzsky's. So we finally decided on Smash Burger. So we're in the line at Smash Burger, getting ready to eat. My kids are acting crazy, running around the place, and Tony and his wife are in line behind us, and she recognizes my son Trey. I think it was Trey you recognized, right? She recognized Trey from doing some teaching at Rosenwald Dunbar. So she begins to recognize Trey, say hello to Trey, begin a random conversation with Trey, and then that allowed Tony and I to meet, just randomly start a conversation from being in the line at Smash Burger. And so we began to talk a little bit, and he knew a little bit about my story and asked me if I'd be interested in coming and speaking. And obviously I was flattered and said that I would. And then he later came over to the table and brought his card and said to contact him. So from that just by chance meeting is the reason is responsible for me being here tonight. And so I just put another quick little slide in there. That's me eating my burger after savoring my Smash Burger after talking to Tony. That is pretty funny. So Smash Burger is the reason we're here today. What's cool about that story is that it was completely unexpected. Serendipitous, I think, but completely unexpected. And that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight as I discuss my story and my experiences and some unexpected things that happened in my life. That was a good unexpected, but unfortunately, there are a lot of things that happen in our life that unexpected things that aren't as good. And so I want to touch on those things tonight. I have a picture up here of myself and a guy named J.R. Martinez, and these are two examples this is an example of two people who have had unexpected things occur in their life. The reason I have J.R. up there, because actually I get confused for J.R. It's happened multiple times. I mean, you don't believe the amount of times people come up to me and ask me, were you on a soap opera? Or were you on Dancing with the Stars? And no, I wasn't. But J.R. and I have similar stories in that he's a Iraqi war veteran who his Humvee exploded, and he was in a horrible fire. and survived it, but not unscathed. Obviously, he and I shared the multiple third-degree burns to our face. Living with that being physically disfigured from that. And so, again, two examples of dealing with an unexpected. And how do you, what do you do when that happens? It's not always a tragedy. Sometimes it's just, you unexpectedly maybe lose your job, or you unexpectedly wake up one day and you're just depressed for some reason. Whatever the unexpected is in your life, it could be a variety of things. But for me, for myself, it was an unfortunate tragedy that I'm gonna discuss as I continue tonight. A little bit about my life now. As already mentioned, I have 3 kids. This is my youngest, Kylie. Kylie's 7 years old. She's a little firecracker, a good little soccer player, and that's her holding up her winnings from Keeneland, in the spring meet at Keeneland. Trey, that's my son Trey. Trey's 9. He's a good little athlete himself. He plays baseball and football, and not quite like his sister. He doesn't have the temper of his sister. He's more of a nice guy. I mean, he'll knock you down on the football field, but help you up at the same time. So Trey's just a really good kid. Jasmine, who's here with me tonight. Jasmine is a sophomore at West Jasmine High School, and she's drives me crazy at times. You all that have a teenage daughter or have raised a teenage daughter know what I mean. But she enjoys dance, and she wanted to come along tonight and heckle me, probably give me a hard time. And that's my wife, Donna. Donna and I have been married 12 years. Last September, I believe. And Donna couldn't make it tonight because my son has a baseball game, and she had to be there with him. So, but she's a heart transplant coordinator at UK. She's a nurse by trade, but she's the heart transplant coordinator for adult. So, a little bit about my family. Most would say, life is good for Harold. I mean, and I would agree. Life is good, but it hasn't always been that way. It definitely hasn't always been that way. And I'm gonna share a video with you real quick.
What would I feel like as a parent if my children had been involved in an incident like that? I was at home during that day. The first indication of what had happened was on the news, and of course, then the next day it was on the news all over our country.
Well, on May 14th, 1988, I was actually a sergeant assigned to Post 5 LaGrange the night that the bus crash happened. Ironically, I was off on leave time studying for a promotional exam that was coming up, but that was actually my shift in my sector that another sergeant had taken. A couple of days after the crash, I returned to work, to my assignment, and it was devastating.
Just one really bad decision can affect the lives of 67 families.
It was the worst incident like this that had ever happened in our country, much less in the state of Kentucky.
That's a promotional trailer that we shot for an upcoming documentary called The Impact Movie, and it's a documentary about the crash that I was in. When I was 14 years old, I was involved in our nation's worst drunk driving-related crash back in '88 in Carrollton, Kentucky, where a drunk driver was traveling on the wrong side of the interstate on I-71 and collided with the bus that I was on, and 66 others collided head-on that night. Obviously, you know, that was a moment in my life. That was the unexpected in my life that essentially changed, you know, my life forever and defined who I was going to be for the rest of my life. I mean, that happened at 14. So I'm going to talk in a little more detail about that event that night and my life subsequently after that. I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee. This is a photograph of me pre-crash. No, I don't know how to play the guitar. I have no clue how to play the guitar. I just thought it'd be cool to pose with it. That was me probably about 11 or 12 or so. Originally from Nashville, Tennessee. Lived a couple of years there, and then my father got transferred. We got transferred to Fort Knox. My dad's a retired warrant officer in the military, in the Army. And we were transferred to Fort Knox at an early age. Lived there a couple of years, and my parents were divorced. And my mom, my older sister, and I then moved to Radcliffe, just a neighboring small town, rural town, kind of a transient community. I mean, most families are only there while they're in the military, and we wound up staying there, and that's where I grew up, small town of Radcliffe, Kentucky. You know, it was meager means. I mean, single mom raised my sister and I. I enjoyed Radcliffe because it was a melting pot. I mean, anyone who grew up in and around a military background know what I mean. You know what I mean. It was a melting pot of people, all races, creeds, black, white, brown, Asian. I mean, and I really liked that growing up for what that gave to myself in terms of respect for others, and so a melting pot of people. Did the normal things kids do. I was involved in sports. Soccer actually was my first love. That's another shot of me at age 13, 1 year before the crash. Soccer. I played mostly soccer growing up. Did a little bit of baseball. Basketball on occasion, but soccer was really the sport that I gravitated towards. I was, smaller kid, but always blessed with speed, and that helped me on the soccer field. When we left Radcliffe, we actually moved to E-Town when Mom was able to buy our first house. E-Town, again, neighboring city next to Radcliffe. I had some friends. All my friends were still in Radcliffe while we moved to E-Town, and May 8th, 1988, this was Mother's Day of that year, one of my best friends named Andy, he took his mom to church, the First Assembly of God church in Radcliffe, and he was saved that day as a gift to her for Mother's Day. And the day he was in church there, he learned about a trip that the church was sponsoring, and it was a trip to Kings Island. And they do it every year. Now, we had never gone, but they do it every year. So Andy calls me up and he tells me about this trip that the church is sponsoring next Saturday, the following Saturday, the 14th. And all the kids in town were going. I mean, we were excited, had never been. And we asked my mom if we could go. And actually, originally, she would not let us because she really just couldn't afford the spare cash. I mean, you got to get my sister and I we have to get in. We got to pay for gifts and playing the games, and so she originally said no, and as resilient as we were, we convinced her to let us go. So Friday night, May 13th, I spent the night at Andy's house, actually mobile home in Radcliffe, and we get up the next morning and we walk to the church, Saturday, May 14th. That's the day that I refer to as the first day of the rest of my life. I hold on to the positive memories of that day because, well, for obvious reasons, but little did we know, again, that unexpected. Little did we know how the night was going to end. And so we walk over to the church, board the bus. One of the chaperones says a prayer, and we take off to Cincinnati. Great day at the park. Do what kids do. We enjoyed all the rides at Kings Island. You know, the Beast, the Twin Racers, the King Cobra, the water rides. Chased the girls around. You know, ate the funnel cakes, all that kind of stuff. Just a great day of camaraderie and fellowship with my guys. You know, with my friends. And long, exhausting day at Kings Island that day. So end of the day, we head back to the bus, board the bus, and get ready to head home. It was probably going on late evening at that time. I got on the bus, and I'm sitting next to Andy. I'm in the 5th seat from the front. Andy's to my left against the window. I'm in the middle, and there's a kid I met that day named Aaron who's sitting on my outside. It was late, and again, exhausting day, so we were asleep. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this event that night and my experience with it. I was asleep at the time of the crash. You know, when you're on a bus, it's very uncomfortable, obviously, but, you know, I'm sleeping with my head down on my lap, my head in my lap, my arms crossed. And all of a sudden, boom, I feel, you know, I'm jolted into the seat in front of me. And at that time, I have no idea what has happened. I hit the seat in front of me. It wakes me up. I hear screaming, wreckage, glass, tires. You know, people are just going crazy. And my first thought was, again, I was asleep. My first thought was we had hit a deer or we had hit a tree or something. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew it was. And I talk about this as if it happens in slow motion, but it all happened very, very quickly. I mean, it was less than a couple of minutes that whoever got off the bus and survived got off. I mean, it all happened very fast, but in my mind, it was happening in slow motion. And so the bus comes to a stop, and again, everything is going on around me. The bus comes to a stop, and it was almost at that moment like, you know, I was like, okay, I'm safe, and, you know, it's almost like wiping the sweat off your brow. And at that instant, the bus burst into flames. So at that point, we had 67 people on this bus with one exit. You know, the buses back then, it was an older 1977 model bus, I believe, and we didn't have the exits we have nowadays. Now you have 9 exits on every bus in the state of Kentucky. We didn't have any roof exits. We didn't have any side exits. We had one exit, well, we had 2, one in the front, one in the back. And the front was engulfed in flames. So you had one way to get out, and that was the back. And that was the rear exit. So at that moment, is survival. I'm close to the front of the bus. It's chaotic. I originally tried to get out of a window. Again, an older bus, and I'm fighting with this window, trying to pull these clasps together on this window, and it doesn't open. And I've got one option, and that's try to make my way to the rear exit somehow, some way. Incidentally, I went toward the front a little bit, as if I might have been pushed to the front. I'm not sure, but for some reason I went toward the front because I was closer. Kind of ran into the flames, and that's how the majority of the flame got me on my left side. And I did an about face and fought and climbed and scratched and everything I could to fight through and get to the rear exit somehow. So I get to the back of the bus, and sparing you the details in between, you can only imagine a bus on fire with 67 people. It's at night, it's dark. I mean, it was a death trap. I mean, it literally was. So I get to the rear of the bus, and it's piled. There's bodies from the floor to the ceiling trying to get out. And as I'm reaching, I feel something pull my arm and jerks me out. And like several kids fall out at the same time as I do. But I get pulled out of this bus, and I hit the ground, and I get up, and I just start running. My face was obviously burned, so my eyes were swollen shut. I could see nothing. And I just started running. And I later met the man who pulled me out. I still keep in touch with him, but he describes, he and his wife were actually coming home from somewhere that evening. And he describes when he pulled up and saw that, and he jumped out, and he comes up to the rear of the bus, and he just describes how he gets up on the rear bumper, and it's kids from the floor to the ceiling, and he just starts pulling. And he said for some reason, how he explains it is this young colored boy's arm stood out to me. And I think he's from Patriot, Indiana. He's rural, grew up rural, good old boy. And that's how he described it. This colored boy's arm stood out to me. Your arm, Harold, and he pulled 3 or 4 times, and I fell out. And I obviously owe my life to this man. But I was out. So I get out of the bus and I start running, and I make it to the median up there in I-71, and they lay me down, and I remember laying in the median there, and the blades of grass just piercing I had burns on my back and my shoulder blade, and I remember laying in the median there, and the EMTs coming and doing their medical procedures, putting this blanket on me and to keep it from going into shock, and that's the last thing I wanted was a blanket on me, but I made it out. I don't know how. I have no logical explanation, but somehow I made it from the 5th row to the rear of that bus. I'm going to show you a little bit of what happened. As I mentioned, the driver of the truck, he was severely impaired, 0.24 blood alcohol content, but he came down the wrong ramp onto I-71 and drove, I believe it was somewhere 2 to 3 miles, somehow without hitting anybody else, without stopping. And I show a picture here I show this because it shows the precise location in which the truck hit the bus. Now this is a photograph from the recreation of the crash. There was obviously a huge investigation, and this is a photograph from that recreation of the crash, and it shows you, as you can see, I don't know if you're familiar with that area up there, but you come around a blind curve, and you can see the truck hits the bus, not square in the middle. It hits it on the end, on the outer edge. And the reason for that was because the bus driver, throughout the investigation, they determined that when he came around the curve, he had about 1/4 of 1 second to react by the time he saw headlights. And our natural instinct is to swerve. So he swerved to the left, and consequently, the truck hit the bus on the outer edge, right around the wheel well. Had he driven straight, the bus would have hit the truck head on, and as the police officers and everyone who did the investigation say that it would have crushed the truck. He wouldn't have made it. It would have crushed the truck, and the outcome would have been different. But that's not what happened. As you can see on the outside there, that's what I'm looking for right there. The wheel well, the truck hits the bus outside of the frame, right in the wheel well, pushes the wheel well back into the door, pushes the door into the gas tank. The gas tank is punctured and explodes. It's just an imperfect storm. I mean, there's just no other way. Gas tank wasn't caged. Nowadays, all bus gas tanks are caged. We had unleaded fuel. Nowadays, they're all diesel fuel. It was just an imperfect storm. Here's part of the aftermath. That is a picture of, I put that up there to illustrate they put the bus on a flatbed truck with the bodies on it and transported it to the National Guard Armory up in Carrollton, Kentucky. And they made a makeshift morgue. And Again, another shot of the bus still on the flatbed truck inside the Army. Again, I put that picture in there again just to illustrate the one exit. Everyone's fate that night was dictated by that one exit. The gentleman that drove the pickup truck, Larry Mahoney is his name, he somehow survived that crash. You could see the wreckage of his truck post-crash. And here's why. Here's how he survived. Again, imperfect storm, for him, perfect storm. But based on the location and where the bus hit his truck, the passenger side of his truck was essentially, interior-wise, just undamaged. I mean, that's a full-grown man. That's not him. That's a full-grown man sitting in his truck after the crash. And you could fit just sitting there just like you were driving it. So he walks away from the crash, and 27 kids don't. You know, so again, just to recap that, really to put that in perspective and bring it back full circle. I'm 14 years old. Get up to go to Kings Island one day. Have a great day at Kings Island. On the way home, a drunk driver's on the wrong side of the interstate and hits our bus. And this is how my life's altered because of that one unexpected event. And oh by the way, 27 kids are killed. My friends, young kids, are killed. And oh, by the way, my best friend Andy, who invited me, was killed that night. Sitting right next to me. Sitting right next to me. So, I mean, what do you do with that? You know, you talk about unexpected. What do you do with that? So I spent the next 2 months in Kosare Children's Hospital up in Louisville, really trying to put the pieces together, trying to figure out what in the world just happened. What just happened? That's really all I could ask myself is what just happened. Trying to reflect, trying to understand how and why these type things happen. I sustained third-degree burns to about 25% of my body. Actually, pretty fortunate that I didn't burn more. I mean, my legs were okay, and the majority of my arms were okay, just spots here and there. But very lucky in that sense to only have been burned, that minimal amount. Third-degree burns to my face, shoulder, arm, back, multiple skin grafts. I have had eyebrow implants, ear reconstruction, where they took cartilage out of my ribs took cartilage out of my ribs to reconstruct my left ear, which is where the majority of the flames hit me. Severe lung damage. I mean, you name it. Anybody who knows a burn victim knows and understands how difficult the treatment is. The treatment is almost as bad as the injury itself. So again, dealing with all of that at age 14, my mom explains. By the way, my sister made it off. My older sister made it off the bus. She was sitting behind me a couple of rows. She had some burns, mostly smoke inhalation, but she got out with minimal burns. She was in critical condition for maybe a week or so, and then was upgraded. But she was very lucky. But she did survive. My mom explains the night she came up to. She gets the phone call late that night, and they tell her. I mean, I can't imagine being in her position with having kids now, but she gets a phone call late that night, and they tell her, your kids have been in an accident. And she thought that we fell off a ride or something. She didn't know what happened. And they tell her, you need to drive to Radcliffe to the church now. And as she's driving there, she's talking to other families, and it begins to unfold what has happened. So she comes up that night to Kosare, and she describes the first time she saw me. Obviously, again, I can't imagine. But she says she was a wreck, and she was telling them that that's not Harold, that's not my son. She didn't believe him when she saw me. And she was in such a state that she fainted, and again, having to deal with that. But she describes the first night seeing me in the hospital. I spent the next 2 months there, and there came a point in time where, again, I hadn't seen myself in a while. I mean, I was in the burn unit a month or so, several weeks later, getting better, but I hadn't seen myself yet. So I don't really know. I know I'm burned, but I don't really know. So one day my mom is in my room, and she walks up around the corner to get a cup of coffee. And the nurses were instructed, don't give these kids a mirror yet. Don't let him see himself yet. He's not ready. And again, resilient. I convinced this nurse to give me a mirror. And when I looked in the mirror that day, and I didn't recognize the person looking back at me, I can't put into words how I felt that day. But again, you can imagine, try to imagine, after everything else that we have dealt with, I don't recognize the person looking back at me when I look in the mirror. And I really don't know what's in store for me at that point. It was the lowest, it was the second day of the rest of my life, really. But that's the point, that's the moment in life right there. That's the moment where you find out what you're made of. That's the moment, that's the crossroad in life. So, I've seen what has happened to me. And again, I'll talk about this in plain terms, but it wasn't nearly as simple as I'm putting it into words. But that's the moment in our lives where you're at your lowest, and you're at that crossroad, and you've got to figure out a way to get through it. You've got to figure out a way to deal with it. You know, you come to that fork in the road. Okay, you can go left or you can go right. You go straight, you run off a cliff. You can go left, you can go right. You make a choice. And so, at some point, I don't know exactly when it was, I made a choice. Bottom line. Dealing with survivor guilt. Andy's gone. I'm disfigured. You know, I'm thinking about, how am I going to face society? How am I going to go back to school? I'm 14. How am I going to ever get a girlfriend? Think about all these things. But at the end of the day, I had to look in that very mirror that revealed this tragedy to me, and I had to tell myself, you got to get through it. And that was the only way to do it. That was the only way to do it, was to stare back at that mirror, my reflection, if you will, and tell myself I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through it somehow, some way. So fast forward, I get out of the hospital. I get out of the hospital, and I'm still dealing with a lot of surgeries, inpatient or outpatient surgeries, multiple skin grafts. And I'm heading into my freshman year at North Hardin. Now, part of me deciding that I was going to get through this was finding an outlet. How do you find, you find an outlet. You figure out a way to rechannel those energies. Rechannel that negative energy into something positive. Find an outlet. Find something. Harold, I don't care what it is, but find it. For me, that was sports. Find a way to get back into sports. And so, a lot of hard work, a lot of PT, a lot of physical therapy, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of training. But entering my freshman year at North Hardin, I wasn't ready yet. I was still, suffering from some of the injuries. And sophomore year, I tried out for the soccer team finally, and made the junior varsity team. Made the JV team, okay. Wasn't good enough for me, but I made the team. So played JV soccer my sophomore year at North Hardin. Came back my junior year, made the varsity team, tried out hard, made the varsity team. I was the second leading scorer on the team that year. Came back again my senior year. This is probably within 3 to 4 years after the crash. Came back my senior year, again played varsity soccer. I was the leading scorer on my team that year, and I was all-state, one of the best players in the state of Kentucky that year. I graduated in '92. Made the all-state, all-district, all-region, all-state team my senior year. That wasn't enough for me. I was getting there, but it wasn't enough for me. I said, I want to kick on the football team. I want to be the kicker. I never kicked a football, but it can't be that hard. So, part of my growth and looking at myself in the mirror, I'm gonna kick for the football team. So, my senior year at North Hardin, I try out for the football team. I'm the starting kicker, and I was an all-district kicker that year. Wasn't enough. Again, I'm getting there, but it wasn't enough. I said, I'm gonna run track. I know I had lung damage. That's okay. I'll figure it out. I'm gonna run track. My senior year at North Hardin, I competed in the 100 meter, the 200, the 400, the 4x1 relay, and the 4x4 relay. And I did the high jump. And we were state champs that year, both indoor and outdoor, '92. So I was feeling better now. I was getting closer, getting over that hump. And, with the hard work and putting the time in, I began getting some recruiting letters and wind up accepting an offer to the University of Louisville to play soccer. I realized my dream of playing D1 soccer. Could have never forecasted or predicted that based on where I was, 4 years prior, but I was fortunate enough to get recruited to play soccer at U of L. Spent 1 year there for various reasons. I wound up transferring to Kentucky. I mentioned that I kicked my senior year in high school, so people ask me why I transferred. Why you give up soccer? You recruited to play. You're starting on the soccer team. Why would you give that up and leave? And the main reason I did that, and some people can't understand, was my friend Andy, who was killed, was a football player. He always tried to get me to play football growing up, and I never would. I played soccer. They were in the same season in the fall. And I grew up a UK fan mostly. UK didn't recruit me for soccer, so I just decided I'm going to play football. And I'm going to do it at Kentucky. So I transferred after 1 year at U of L. Walked on the team at UK as a kicker at first. I kicked 1 year, so I thought I was, big and bad. I can kick in the SEC, no problem. But I was a faster and a better athlete than I was a kicker. And so I ultimately got moved to wide receiver and kick returner, where I earned a scholarship my last 2 seasons. I walked on in '94, and I was given a scholarship '95, '96 as a wide receiver and a kick returner at UK. Again, all part of that journey. And I attribute a lot of that to this man right here. That's Bill Curry. That's a coach I played for. You know, he didn't know me earlier in life and throughout the crash, but when I came to UK, he gave me an opportunity. This man gave me an opportunity. By all means, I earned it. And he would try to use me as an example at times, and I'd tell him, Coach, I'm not going to be some, United Way poster. I mean, I'm here to play. I'm going to compete with these guys. I'm here to play. So, but Coach Curry, I keep in touch with. He's one of my favorite people on earth, and I owe a lot of that to him. He taught us a lot. He didn't win here, unfortunately. He did not win here, but he taught all his players how to be men. He taught us all how to carry yourselves on and off the field. He taught us how to be students and athletes, and just a class act. So 94, just to kind of go through a couple of little bit of my journey coming through. I walked on 94. I received the walk-on award, most outstanding walk-on award, the year I walked on, by the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame. They give one award each year to one player at U of L, one player at UK. And I received that award in 94. Next year, 95, Tony mentioned I won the Johnny Unitas Courage Award. Very fortunate enough to win that award. That's a photo of myself and Johnny U and Dan Fouts back in the background there, one of the great Chargers quarterbacks. Again, just all part of the journey. Very, very fortunate, very, very blessed that people recognize my efforts. And then I won another award, which means the most to me. A very prestigious award, and that was the Arete Award. Arete is a Greek word. It means excellence, is what that word means. And I cherished that award. It was kind of the pinnacle for me. That was later in my career. It was kind of the pinnacle for me, and it put me in such prestigious company. I mean, that's an award that Lance Armstrong has won. Evander Holyfield has won. Muhammad Ali has won. To my right, Ernie Irvan. He was in a horrible crash, NASCAR circuit, back in the early 90s that he survived. This award recognized not just an athlete's talents, but your talents on the field, your talents in your sport, having gone through something. And that was a national award. To his right, that's a lady named Helen Klein. She was like 75 and did like these eco challenges where she like swam 100 miles and biked 50 miles, and then the guy to her right on the far end is actually a high school kid who was a place kicker, and he's blind. He was a successful kicker, and he's legally blind. So that award meant a lot to me, and on ESPN and given to me by Ahmad Rashad and Evander Holyfield. Just the meaning of the whole word, again, excellence. I cherish that award. And kind of finally, toward my latter part of my time at UK, kind of becoming this, the media caught a hold of my story and kind of becoming this phoenix from Kentucky. That's a Sports Illustrated article where they called me the Phoenix from Kentucky, after the phoenix is the mythical bird rose from the flames. Just very, very blessed, having gone through something unexpected like that. And I'm going to get ready to close here, and I'm just going to talk about a few things that got me there. A few things that maybe a few take-home points that we can all try to focus on. As you deal with your unexpecteds, or whatever those things might be. First and foremost was being comfortable with discomfort, if that makes any sense. You just gotta being comfortable with discomfort, and what I mean by that is it's natural to have fears and something stopping you. Fear is a natural emotion that lies between where you are and where you want to be. There's that fear in the middle. And you got to be comfortable with that feeling and take that anxiety and that fear and use that as fuel for positive change. And again, it's natural, but you gotta be comfortable with discomfort. That's how I put it. Escape program living. You know, be daring. Take some risks. You know, if I would have just been, if I wasn't willing to step out on a limb a little bit and take some risks, take some chances, despite where I was and where my body was and everything I'd been through, I would have never been able to accomplish what I had. So, you know, escape that program living. See how comfortable you are when you're outside of your comfort zone. Pinpoint, the next thing is pinpoint low-hanging fruit. Whatever that might be. You got something in your sights. Always set larger goals, obviously, but the low-hanging fruit. Pinpoint the low-hanging fruit, which is what I tried to do gradually. Pinpoint the low-hanging fruit and attack it. Bottom line, attack it. Find out what it is, get in it, and shift into take charge mode. And lastly was to be comfortable in your own skin. You know who you are, accept who you are, be comfortable with who you are. Don't get lost into judging yourself and comparing yourself to others. You know, had I not been able to look in that mirror and accept who I was, again, probably never would have been able to achieve the things I did. But be comfortable in your own skin and who you are. And if you don't like who you are, change. Change. As I close, I'm just going to, there's a quote that I like, pretty lengthy, but I didn't have it back then to read, but this is a quote from one of our greatest innovators, of our time, revolutionized our tech industry. One of our modern day heroes, if you will, Steve Jobs. And he says, this was his commencement ceremony at Stanford University before he died, obviously, 2005 or so. He says, "Remembering I'll be dead soon is the most important tool that I'll ever encounter to help me make the big choices in life. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't get trapped by the dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your inner voice." Again, being comfortable with who you are. But most importantly, he stated, have the courage to follow your heart and your intuition. Because they somehow already know what and who you truly are and what you want to become. And to me, those are just wise words from a wise man. So that's my story. I thank all of you I thank Tony for going to Smashburger on Sunday. And, again, I think it was very serendipitous that we met that day. I don't think our relationship or journey stops here, but I want to say thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share my story with you all tonight. Thank you.